This is Tech Addicts.
This week we have very little information on the Motorola Moto Tab G62 and very little information on the Xiaomi Pad 6. Not to mention very little information on the Lenovo Mozy, but what we do know is that Dizzy has turned 35. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts podcast. I am your host Gareth and this is the other host Ted. How are you, Ted?
Hello, I'm okay apart from an ear infection, but I won't bore you with that. The weather report from North Wales is delightful. Very windy, and it was down to 12 degrees last night when I went to bed. Thought, oh yeah, bliss. This is so nice. A good night's sleep and no muggy, horrible, sleepless nights. Yes! Summer's gone. No, it'll be back. What's it like up there?
It's not too bad. It's a wee bit, it's overcast. There was huge amounts of rain yesterday, which was quite welcome, although the grass seems to have doubled in length overnight, which is a bit of a pain. It just seems to be doing that. Things are growing like wildfire with these sunny days and sporadic rain showers. Did you say you had an ear infection or a rear infection?
It says an ear infection, but a rear one might have been preferable, frankly. Pain in my ear. I am taking a amoxicillin, so hopefully it'll be gone soon. But, yeah, no, not in my rear.
Okay. Well, keep your fingers out of your ears. That stops the ear infections. You dirty fingernails. Right, okay. Yeah, so we have some feedback after the last show. Mr. Matt Jones has written in to say, great show again, guys. Thanks. The photo in question, because we were doing a thing about the Vector 2 weeks ago, and then Matt wrote in last week with a local picture of his local bike shop, which was selling Vectors and all kinds of nostalgic bicycle stuff. He says, the photo of the bike/moped shop was taken in Whitstable, Kent.
Yeah.
It used to be a lovely little oyster fishing town. I'm trying to work out how the English say it. Town. Isn't it?
I say it, chaps.
It's not town. That's how we say it over here. Town. Around town. That means around town. But anyway, carrying on with Matt. But most of the houses are now second homes for rich Londoners, including, sadly, Haywards Bike shop. Oh dear, so that means that the shop has been either demolished or renovated into a house for a city type.
Disgrace.
Totally.
Yeah, so the WHIT was not Whitley Bay or Whitchurch, but Whitstable.
Do you know Whitstable? Have you been there?
No, I don't think I have. I know where it is though. In Kent, I have holidayed in Kent, and it's quite a nice place to go, obviously. But no, have you been to Whitstable?
No, but I have noticed that you have called me a Kent quite frequently.
Enough. We'll be kicked off the podosphere.
True, that's quite true. Joseph Fallon has also written in of the Havit wired mechanical gaming keyboard. Do you want to take this one?
Oh, cheap as chips and loud, he says. Just purchased my first mechanical keyboard. Very much budget, but it'll do for a play. Has the loudest type of switch you can get, so probably a no-no for shared workspaces. This comes in a... we'll put the link in the show notes, but it comes in a mechanical keyboard and mouse set. And the point here is the price, which is 18 quid, including the mouse. He does say that, by all accounts, the mouse is just eWaste. So, in other words, the mouse is just useless and crap. But even so, a mechanical, clacky, loud keyboard for 18 quid, he reckons is worth the punt. So, yeah, let us know, Joseph, how you've got on with that. It sounds lots of fun.
It does. I've used Havit stuff in the past, and they are quite good, actually. I think it might have been a keyboard or at least a mouse or something. I had some sort of computer peripheral, and it lasted a good long time. I gave it to my daughter, and she disappeared off with it.
Yeah, I was talking about... Sorry, go on.
You're okay. I don't know if you heard a splash there, but I've just managed to dump half a glass of water down the front of my t-shirt and onto the front of my tracksuit bottoms. So not only am I now a bit cold and wet, but it also looks like I've had a little accident.
Oh dear. You don't do very well with your drinks, do you? At least it's not all over the keyboard this time.
Yes, I went the other way.
Talking about keyboards and mice and mice, the Logitech MX Master 3, I've had a problem with it. I don't know, it'd be interesting to hear if you've got the same problem. The problem is that it's kind of jittery. The connection seems to be a bit crap. So if you slide it across the screen from side to side, depending on what you're doing, and I think it's related to what load is going on with the computer. I'm doing it now and it's not doing it, but sometimes and quite often it just stops, and then you realise you've gone across the other side of the screen, and then it catches up with you a bit later. I've read online about this. There's lots of people in the Reddit community who are saying they've got similar problems with this. Some people are saying it's software, so I uninstalled all the software and reinstalled that. Some people are saying that it might be the fact that it uses a unifying dongle which does the keyboard and the mouse, and it might be better to do them separately. Some people are saying that take it out of the USB socket and put it in USB 2 socket and it will fix it. Some people are saying that your battery's dead, which is not. And some people, the last one, which I think might be the most valid one, is that there's an RF interference thing going on. So in other words, if you're using a USB-C socket round the back of your computer, which is next to the aerials that are bringing in your Wi-Fi signal, it's interfering with it. And if you move it to another port, if you can, I can't with my computer, it should fix the problem. So it's been really frustrating this week, and I it's a shame because it's such a nice bit of kit, and it's just doing this horrible laggy thing. What are you? Any experience of that?
Yes, I have had this quite a bit, and I can clear up a couple of those. My desktop computer, which I use it on, I don't have a Wi-Fi card in it anymore, or aerials or anything that comes out of it. It's connected by Ethernet to the network, so there's no other wireless signals coming off my computer, and I have experienced that from the back of the machine where it's plugged directly into the machine. Now, I don't have a USB 2 port on the back, but I did have on my old motherboard, and I still had that problem with it on USB 2.
Right.
What I do is I have a hub that sits on the desk in front of me, because I don't know if you remember, but I've complained about this problem to you before, where my mouse has been a bit of a dick, I think I referred to, and it was just not going across the screen.
I don't remember. No.
You just don't listen to anything I say. But I've got a USB 3 hub made by Oki that sits in front of me, and whenever that happens, what I do is I just lift the USB out of it and put it into a different socket, and that resynchronizes the signal or whatever, and it stops doing it.
Right.
The problem is whenever I've got all the sockets used up with something else, because I've got a Bluetooth one in it and I've got a USB hard drive in another, and I've got my micro SD card reader into another one, so I have to unplug one of those, and it's not always easy to be able to swap it out. But I might just try the suggestion of having two Logitech ones, one for the mouse and one for the keyboard. Yeah. Because that might help. Yeah. I haven't tried that one yet.
Because you get one in each box, so you have got two. But one of the selling points of the whole system is you don't need to use two, and so I never have done. So perhaps I'll try that one as well and see. We'll report back, the pair of us, on that one. But it's just really annoying when you've got a nice, really effective mouse and keyboard set, and it just does that stupid thing. Very annoying.
I thought it was just me, and I was always trying to work out if it's something that's running on the computer, slowing it down, maybe one of the background tasks, as you've suggested. But you've set my mind at rest that it's not just me. That's good.
No, there's plenty of people out there in that Reddit group that are doing exactly the same thing, and they're all very frustrated, and they're reaching out. They're reaching out to Logitech on it, and Logitech don't seem to be responding to that group anyway.
Well, there is a new beta software application for your desktop as well, which you can use, that I updated to quite recently. But I haven't actually noticed it happening since the last time I complained to you about it, but you weren't listening, so we've no idea when that was.
One of the things I did do when I uninstalled the software was that I didn't install options. So Logitech options. Previously I noticed that Logitech options was installed and also as a separate program, Options Plus. This time I just installed Options Plus, so you still get all the bells and whistles. But it's hard. Intermittent faults are just really difficult to track down, aren't they? And so I'm still monitoring as to what difference that might make as well. We shall report back on it.
Okay, well, you take it in your direction, and I'll take it mine.
Yeah, and then we'll jutter between us. Piehole. Now, Ian Barton sent me an email in the week saying, do you want to try my Piehole thingy, VPN? And I said, yes, please, Ian. And so he kindly let me piggyback his... I suppose I'm allowed to say this, and it's not illegal or anything, is it?
No,
hopefully not. He allowed me to piggyback his remote Pi thingy to try it out on my phone. So he got me to download and install this app called OpenVPN. And then he made an account for me, and I logged into that, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the net result after all that fiddling about was that on my phone, I was able to surf around on the Chrome and anywhere else. And all the adverts were cut out, and it worked really well. I was very impressed. The only thing that it stumbled on was Netflix. I don't know if you found this, but when I tried to use Netflix, it didn't want to know. It kept throwing up errors, and as soon as I turned OpenVPN off, it was fine. It went back to normal. Turn it back on again, and it was just throwing up errors. Didn't want to work. But that's the only thing I found wrong with it. Apart from that, worked really well. Really impressed.
I can't remember if I've had a problem with Netflix. I have noticed in the odd time, you go to a site and it'll sometimes show you euros or some kind of other currency whenever you're looking to price something. But I don't think I've ever had a problem with Netflix or Amazon Prime or any of those sorts of things through the Pi-hole. It's always been sort of centrally located in the UK.
Right.
But yes, obviously you're noticing a lack of ads and things like that.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than that. Right?
No, that is good. But I do also wonder what I'm cutting out that Google, the stuff I do want to see that from Google. I don't want to cut out the good stuff and cut out Netflix, and I don't know. I mean, I'm still exploring it really. And Ian's also sent me a link to be able to use it in Windows as well. So I've yet to try that out. We'll see how that goes. But there's got to be a payoff, hasn't there? That nothing is going to be as easy as that and just perfect. There's got to be a payoff, surely.
Yeah. It's interesting that it's OpenVPN. I've been using WireGuard for a couple of years now, and I do prefer it over the regular VPN because it just seems to be faster, and you tend to get faster speeds through it, and it's less complex. Mm-hmm. But I haven't tested VPNs in a long time now because they just seem to be a wee bit more finicky. But that might be the reason why you're seeing a problem with Netflix, whereas WireGuard might be able to detect your location easier or something. I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've set these up, and I've just let them go the way they're going.
And do you have to pay for these things? Does Ian have to pay for what he's let me in on, or is it free?
It depends. You can find them for free if you look hard enough. But if you can, I pay through TourGuard. It's something like $15 every 6 months. I got a deal on that, and it gets me WireGuard, and it gets me a few other bits and pieces that I'm just happy using. Mm-hmm. And I feel that paying for it, you tend to get a slightly better service and speed and things like that. But that's not to say you can't find the same thing if you search around on the free markets. But I just always find that one day, whenever that freebie side of things comes to an end, then you're back at square one. You've got to try and find somewhere else to go, and it might be long enough since you've set it up that you've forgotten everything about it because you tend to put things out of your mind. Because setting up WireGuard again, I'd have to go and find documentation on how to do that if I was to change my WireGuard provider and things.
Anyway, thank you, Ian. It's been really interesting to see that in action.
Yeah, yeah. If you've got time to tinker with these sorts of things, then it does work out to be a really good solution. And it can cause a lot of, or take away a lot of headache. Okay, next up, in the hard line for the hardware, we're going to start with Samsung, because they've got a huge stockpile of 50 million devices. Now, just think about that, 50 million. That's a massive amount of devices that are not being sold due to low demand. And the article over in GSM Arena says that the A series of mid-range devices is the one that's taken up the largest proportion of this stockpile. Ted, what can you tell us about this?
I don't know really. It seems to be that lots of factors have come together in order to make this happen, and I've noticed in the last few days actually that Samsung are pushing stuff out for very little money. They're offering all sorts of deals. There was one in GSM Arena today, actually, where they were saying that if you play your cards right and have got something to trade in and blah, 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 you could actually get a fold or a flip or something for free because you can just make use of all the different deals going on. Wow. I think that to some degree you could argue that these manufacturers are in danger of shooting themselves in the foot if they produce really good lower-end devices. Then people are going to buy them over the more expensive ones because obviously it costs less money and they get pretty much the same service and the same device and the same facilities. So if you were running a company, what would you do? You've got to kind of be seen to be innovative and making stuff for the top end. But if you're going to shoot yourself in the foot, it's a bit like the Sony thing with the camera, isn't it? You know, giving their imaging sensors out to all the other manufacturers, but not actually using them for their own devices. And you think, well, what's that about? Why are they doing that? To generate camera sales, or is it just because they don't want to be competing with the other people they're selling their components out to? I think it's a very complicated economic issue, isn't it?
It is, yes. But initially, whenever I read this, I thought just because of chip shortages, and there was the scare of the chip shortage. Was at this time last year they were talking about how they were going to run out of microchips and they were having to do deals to try and get them. It was pushing up the price of everything, and I just figured that a company like Samsung would be able to just walk in and get as many as possible and then build up a stockpile so that they still have devices to sell if there was to be a chip shortage. Now, that I don't believe that chip shortage ever came to fruition in the way that we imagined it would. And as a result, all of the chips were put into these Samsungs. There was still plenty left for other manufacturers to pick up. Mm-hmm. And we saw Samsung putting out MediaTek and all, and any sort of chip that they could get their hands on, rock chips and all those sorts of things were popping up in handsets across the board and various different other manufacturers too. And it might have just been out of concern and worry. And now we're left with this huge amount of devices that aren't going to be sold because, you know, they've managed to solve the chip shortage crisis. Or maybe it hasn't been sold yet, actually. Solved yet.
Good for consumers, though. Good for us.
It might be, but then it might not be. It might stagnate. Say, for example, Samsung, they decide, right, we need to get rid of these devices before we start pushing out new devices. So you might see, say, something like the S23 coming along with just a small amount of an upgrade over the S22, even smaller than you usually get, because they want to try and entice people to maybe buy some of their back catalogue, because it's better value for money. You know, if they make a smaller amount of S23s and then pump up the A53 or something like that and sell it at a really attractive price, you might see them, you know, selling more of those than the S23.
Or they could skip a year and tweak the S22, like they were talking about doing with the S21 FE. They could say, right, we're going to put slightly different internals in it, but actually it's the same device. We're running with this for another year. Yeah.
Well, they have kind of done that before. Was it the S21 or the S10, I think it might have been, had that display that had a ridiculous resolution on it. And then whenever the S20 came along, they changed they sized the resolution down. So the screen was maybe a better technology or something, but it didn't have as big a resolution as the S10 did. Something like that happened a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And it made it just not that much of an upgrade, but it was an upgrade elsewhere where there was more RAM or something like that, or more storage, or a slightly faster processor.
Yeah, I do know. I've got an S20 FE here and an S10, and the S10 has got a much better screen on it and a faster refresh rate and all the rest of it. The S20 FE was dumbed down, but then the S20 FE was a kind of middle range phone, and the S10 was a flagship, so it's a bit difficult to kind of compare the two, I suppose.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing going forward to see what happens in the next year, and if maybe Samsung just start doing lots of competitions, or buy a tablet and get a free phone.
Yeah, that probably is more like it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like Sony have done with their Xperia 1 Mark IV, giving away XM4 headphones because the XM5s are out. And, you know, if you were in business, you'd have to play those kind of games and to try and entice, yeah.
Yeah, you would do. Well, one thing that they are putting together is the new Samsung Viewfinity S8. This is a new 32 kind of 27-inch screen. There's two options, obviously, there that are IPS panels with 3840 by 2160 pixel resolutions with an anti-glare matte coating. And it supports up to 1 billion colours with a 5 millisecond response time, several ports including an Ethernet port, HDMI, USB Type-C and a USB 3.0 hub.
One? Just one?
Just one
Shocking.
hub. But yeah, it looks like a really nice screen here. So it's got an Ethernet port on it. That's kind of interesting.
Oh, it's a USB 3 hub, not just one port. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'll forgive them then.
I'd like to be able to see the back of this to see how those are arranged, what kind of way you can get into them and stuff like that, how accessible they are.
Yeah. Can I just skip back a minute to what you were saying earlier about this mouse and your port, your hub that you've got on your desk? One thing I was trying to do, because my computer's quite away from, it's under a table and blah, blah, blah. What I was trying to do was to get a USB hub with a long cable, and the longest one I could find seemed to be about 4 feet. That's it. So I don't think there's some technical reason why they can't make them longer than 4 feet, 1.2 meters. But I couldn't find one. Have you ever seen one with a long cable?
Well, the one I have just has a socket for a cable to go into it, and it's got that proprietary USB type
I see.
one. You know, it's like micro USB added onto the edge of the, or a little bit added onto the edge of a micro USB that you'd see in the back of a Western Digital hard drive. I can't remember what they call them, but I've got it's probably about a 6-foot cable coming up, but it's self-powered, this one.
Right, okay.
So it has a power adapter.
The two hubs I've got here already are both USB-C, which is not very helpful for me because my computer's got no USB-C port. And also, the cable is sealed into the unit on both of them. And I need it to be either like yours or just longer. Anyway, sorry, I sidetracked this item about the TV. No, the monitor.
And this is on your desktop, isn't it? Do you not have a USB on the front of your desktop?
A USB on the front of my desktop computer?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand what you're asking.
On the case, your desktop case?
They're on the back. There is one USB 3 port on the front edge of it, but all the rest of them are on the back.
Can you use the one on the front edge of it?
I can, but if I do that, then if I take that up with the unifying dongle, then I can't use it for anything else.
But if you were to plug the USB hub into that?
Yes, I could do that. But I would need a hub because I haven't got one that's not that's not USB-C.
Oh, right, okay.
It's
USB-C on the front.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, we'll carry on with the podcast.
Sorry, yes. Back to the Viewfinity S8 monitor.
Yes. You're going to buy one?
Oh, it's certainly got loads of ports and stuff. One of the things that's really annoying about my new MSI monitor is that I've lost. I was saying to you the other day, I've lost my two USB-A's on the side, which are really useful. and it's a real shame. So there's no USB-As, even though it's got that USB cable running to the computer, the USB, whatever it's called, that piggyback one, USB-B, isn't it? Which on my Dell monitor, that powers two USB-A hubs, not hubs, ports. Anyway, so it's nice to see that this one has got not only a USB 3 port, but also a hub. Not sure what that means, as we said just now, but hopefully it means there's more than one USB-A.
Well, I've clicked through to the website and I'm currently looking at interface recognitions, features. So is there a US? Oh, there's no detail on how many USB ports it have.
Oh yeah, I've got some specs here.
One display port, one HDMI, one USB Type-C, USB hub 3, 3DN. Maybe that means there's three connectors.
Down. Yeah, I don't know what that means. So it depends on what that is. 3DN.
USB-C charging power is a max of 90 watts.
Oh, right. You can charge it by USB-C, so it's not a proprietary charger. Ooh.
Well, I suppose that's probably meant for charging your phone or something like that.
Oh, I see. That's outcoming, is it? Right.
Yeah. But I'd imagine from that USB hub 3.0 in brackets 3DN, the 3DN means there's 3 ports. I'd like to think.
Yeah, you would think that is probably quite likely. Let's quickly look it up. It says DN. No, not DN. No, can't. Right, forget that. Move on.
There's no pictures of the back. Gosh darn it.
I like the keyboard, mind you. I think it's a Logitech. I could be wrong, but it's a white keyboard with a matching mouse. The mouse looks Logitech as well. They look really nice.
Yeah. Oh. Aha, I've got a picture of the back. Okay, and it's quite small, but it's opening. Oh, it's over on Telnex or something. Hang on a second. It's not. Oh, there it is there. Got it. Right. Okay, so looking at the back, we have 3 USBs.
Well, USB-As. Yes.
Yes. And above that's a USB Type-C. They're kind of midway up the back to the right of the center.
It's not very wide, this monitor, is it? Not like my lovely MSI.
Oh, no, it is. It's huge. Unless the girl sitting in front of it is incredibly small.
If you go back to the Fandroid thingy, the Fandroid article, where we started from, it doesn't look very wide on that. It doesn't look as though it's wide as mine. It's certainly not curved, is it?
But in that, there's a link that says click here for the full set of specs. If you click that, there is a young lady sitting beside it, and it does look to be quite big.
It looks quite big, yeah, but just not very wide, I don't think.
That's because it's at an angle.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Yes.
It's almost 2 inches wide. All right, well, we'll move on. Well, we've done that to death.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
We almost sound like we know what we're talking about, but we're not convincing anyone. Right, so Lenovo have a stupid device called the Mosey. This is a concept notebook and integrated projector. This is a laptop that doesn't have a screen, you know, because they're useful. I guess this is more for conference rooms and things like that. But yeah, you can set it in, and it's got a projector built into it, and it'll project onto the wall. And you pull out a little keyboard that seems to be on a tray of some description, and you can use it that way.
Fantastic.
Really?
I love this idea. So you don't need a screen. You don't need to worry about monitors or anything else. Put a mouse in your pocket and you take it away, and you go. All you need is some sort of flat surface in front of you, and you can then, presumably, you can make it as big or as small as you want to. Depends on how good the projector is, of course, as to how white it is and how well it'll work in whatever room. I mean, it won't be much good if you go down to McDonald's and there's not likely to be a wall in front of you or something. But yeah, it all hangs on how good the projector is and how useful that is. I think it's a great idea. It's not the first time we've seen projected screens like this, but in a little compact carry around thingy like that with a full-size keyboard, I think that's great. I'd love one of those.
Yeah, I do have a couple of issues, right? So obviously you're not going to be using this on a train or a plane without getting lynched. But if, say, you're using this in a conference room, okay, so there's the big meeting table and you've got this at the end pointed up at the wall, the keyboard's going to slide out kind of in the middle of the table and you'll have to reach in. You can't, I don't know if you can't see from the image whether or not the projector is positionable, so you can turn it at a 90-degree angle so you can sit and have it projecting up against the wall. You have to sit in front of it, in front of the projector directly. So it would have to be more of a personal use, where maybe you're sitting in a hotel room and connecting it and then putting it up on the wall of the hotel room, which means you're going to need a nicer white wall in a hotel room.
Yeah. I think that's what it's more designed for, rather than using it as a business conference tool. I think it's just saying, look, you can carry this with you, and it is a personal computer. The clues in the name, PC, and this just means you haven't got to carry a screen, and your whole footprint is much smaller. And I know I can't get to those details. I was just trying to find whether you can shoot it out sideways or not, but I'm guessing not. I think this is designed for personal use.
Well, yeah, there's kind of a diagonal trench in there that pushes it up so directly in front of you. So I think if you were to buy one of these, you would actually be doing yourself out of the luxury of having a screen with you, which makes a regular laptop a lot more flexible than this, in that if you need to suddenly go to a meeting and hook it up to a projector, you can have it in front of you, and the projector, which might be at a right angle to you, pointed up at the wall or something. So I think you've got better options with a regular laptop. There must be a real niche for this kind of thing.
Right, it's obviously a load of crap.
Yeah, I think that's where I started, isn't it?
Load of rubbish, isn't it? And what, Mozi, M-O-Z-I, what on earth does that mean? Come on, Lenovo.
Don't know. Weird one, that. Okay, next up is the Motorola Moto Tabs G62, which some people have spotted in some listings somewhere. Do tell us, Ted.
Oh, there's not much to tell, is there? Who put this in the show notes?
I don't know.
There's almost literally nothing to say about this. You're quite right. Someone spotted this in some listing of some registration somewhere, and they suddenly put it up as a story. I can't believe we're covering this. The Motorola Tab G62. Do we want a Motorola Tab? Have we seen a Motorola tablet recently? We haven't, have we? Are we going right back to the days of the
Zoom?
The X Zoom. That was, when was that? About 10 years ago.
It was one of the first Android tablets as well, or one of the first desirable ones.
So I suppose it might be quite... Let's make something of this anyway, shall we? I suppose it could be quite interesting to see a Motorola tablet. Interesting to see what they might do with it. Interesting to see what that Nokia have done with this. They're trying to keep up. Motorola are very aggressive these days, and they will be trying to catch up with anyone else that's going into the tablet market. We know that other Chinese manufacturers are launching straight into it, which we'll come to shortly, and they're all kind of making a go of it because of Android 12L and what Android 13 might bring in terms of landscape. See, I made something of nothing then.
You did. Whilst you were doing that, I've looked up the specs, and I've found over in Giz, China, they have a spec list for what it could well be. And they're speculating somewhere between 3.8 and 3.9 gigabytes of RAM.
Oh dear.
Running Android 12, an ARM64 V8A chip inside it, Qualcomm SM615, GPU, tablet, screen size 1200 by 2000, screen density 240 dpi, and there's a picture of it and it looks very much like a Lenovo.
240, that's not very good, is it? That's
20 watt fast charging.
Okay. Anything about storage or RAM or anything? Oh, you said about RAM.
Probably will have some. Yeah.
What about the chipset? Oh, you said about that as well, didn't you?
Because there's two model numbers they've identified, they believe one of them is going to carry the 4G connectivity.
Okay. We can't possibly milk any more out of this, surely.
No, we can't. But thanks for putting it in the show notes, and we'll move on.
Let's move on to something. Oh, this is the other
grief.
tablet. So, on a similarly nothing story, there's similar leaks of the Xiaomi Pad 6. Now, the Pad 6, if it is a thing and if it is coming out, we were kind of raving about the Pad 5 on this show over the months. The Pad 5 is now out, and they've even started to reduce it. I saw it the other day, I think, for £329 somewhere, and so that's that's bringing it down. And the Pad 5 has got 128 gigs of storage, 6 gigs of RAM, and it's a really decent
120 hertz screen. That was the big killer on this one.
Oh yeah, Snapdragon 870, 11-inch tablet. So if this is an upgrade, what could the Pad 6 Pro actually upgrade on this? I suppose they could make more storage. They could make it cheaper. They could update the chipset so it was better than a Snapdragon 870, I suppose. And yeah, I don't know.
Well, I went down at the end of the show last week. I think I was losing track because I was looking to see what the options were on this, because I was fancying it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. And the Pad 5, I think the best, you were getting an extra 20% off with various codes and things like that, and it was dropping it down to a very reasonable price of, I think I got it down to £279.
Oh, right, wow.
But then I discovered I was looking at that 120 hertz screen. I was trying to find the 256 gigabyte version because this doesn't have a micro SD card slot.
Oh yeah.
But could only get the 128 gigabyte version, which I figured was, it's all right at a push. But I have a thing now, and I'm getting a bit hacked off with my S7 Plus because it's just a wee bit too big. Mm-hmm. If I try and use it, like if I want to set it up in the car to watch a wee bit of something while I'm waiting for my wife to do the shopping that takes far too many hours, I can't just set it nicely in the steering wheel that I used to do with my S6, and I've been suffering this horror for the last year and a bit that I've had the S7 Plus. And I've just decided, enough is enough. All I use this tablet for now is media consumption. It's got a great screen. So I thought, why don't I swap over to this, which is a wee bit smaller, and it'll fit nicely into my steering wheel the way the S6 used to, because it's 11 inches. 12 inches is just a wee bit too big. And the folio case that the S7 comes with is, or S7 Plus I got for it, is just a bit too big for my steering wheel. So it was a ridiculous thing. I know. Yes. But I figured it's overkill for what I use it for. I could get rid of it and get a cheaper one with a decent screen. The Pad 5 seemed to be the right candidate, but it's been on sale for a year and it's had all kinds of deals, and I think all the good models have gone. All the desirable ones, the one with the larger storage, and then getting them shipped to the UK, it was just harder to get. And then you and I both had, I think we had a problem with, remember we were trying to do the postcodes and things like that, and it was, it was only taking it in certain ways, and by the time I did that and went through, it would just go, no, this model is out of stock, and I was like, oh, right, okay, and it hasn't got a micro SD, so I'm going to lose that, so I won't be able to sync as much stuff. If I was to go on holiday, then I need to have a massive amount of stuff with me, download all of Netflix onto the tablet, and I won't be able to do that in 128 gigabytes. So we'll come back to my quest for the tablet later on in the show.
Either that or buy a Motorola Tabs G62.
I could. I'll have to wait 4 years for that to eventually arrive, and then it'll be a bit crap probably and get absolutely no updates anyway. So the Pad 6 is the next option, but I've got a funny feeling this is going to be about as widespread as the Pad 5 was, because it's only recently that I've noticed there's been a bit of a push. I've seen a few articles on the Pad 5 and people saying, oh yeah, it's the underdog of the Android tablets. It's really good for the money. But you can't get them. They're like hen's teeth because they've sold out of their stock.
I think they rolled it out in China only first, didn't they?
They did, yeah. And I remember we featured it for a good few weeks, and I think we recommended it to someone who was looking for one. I think it might have been Gareth Williams was asking on MeWe which tablet should he move to, and we suggested this one because it kind of met what he was looking for, but it just the best flavors of it weren't available.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking the same with the Xiaomi Pad 6. Maybe they've just waited until they've sold out of Pad 5s. Whenever it's gone or low stock, then they'll just do a Pad 6 and replenish the stock with the newer version at the same kind of price point.
Mm-hmm.
With upgraded specs inside it, probably the same build, the same design as the Pad 5. And I think that's what we're going to see here.
The Pad 5, didn't that come with a keyboard and attachable keyboard and stylus as well? Got a
I
feeling
don't think so.
No?
I think you had to buy it separately.
Oh, okay.
But that was one of the reasons why I was quite excited about it, because
Yeah.
that's something that I wouldn't be looking for just for a media consumption unit.
Oh, okay, right.
That worked with that beautiful screen.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens with that then.
Yes.
Oh, it's lagging down with rain here now. Can you hear that?
I can have. Yeah.
Very nice.
You just want to go out and lie in it in your Speedos and just go, cold and wet.
They must have thought I was mad here yesterday when it started raining, and I walked outside and put my arms out and just soaked it in for a few minutes.
Ooh, I love sitting in damp clothes. Ooh, I've got water all over my t-shirt. It's quite nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So next up is the Asus ROG Phone 6. It's rumored to be coming. The ROG Phone 5 was a bit of a hit with people. I remember it being at the top of many lists of being one of the better phones of last year. So the ROG Phone 6 is coming along, and they're talking about it having maybe a 165 hertz AMOLED screen. But what they're saying is that it might claim to have plus 30% vapor chamber. I don't think that is for vaping. I think that's for cooling the processor. You're not going to be able to suck on the phone. Maybe you could. I don't know. Plus 85% graphite sheet.
What does that mean?
Well, graphite's that stuff that you find in pencils, isn't it?
I don't know. Let me see if I can find the specs anywhere else.
It must be something to do with cooling, because that's what they're saying. This is going to be a huge amount cooler than the options available and the ROG Phone 5.
ROG6. No, there's nobody listing any specs for it. It must be so not available.
Well, no, yeah, it mustn't be. But I imagine that the graphite sheet is it's got to be something to do with the heat sink. That's maybe over the processor or something like that. That's going to reduce the heat that comes off the phone by up to 85% or something like that, or whatever. But it's going to have. They're saying that it could debut with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 in less than 2 weeks.
Mm.
So we don't even have a spec list, and
No.
they're talking about it coming out in 2 weeks' time.
Amazing. Apparently the 3D vapor chamber and graphite sheet guarantee better sustained performance while gaming.
That's what you need.
Gaming phones I'm drawn to because and I really loved having my time with the Razer phone and the Razer Phone 2. And I've tried another couple of gaming phones in the process. I've never had a Black Shark in my hand, but I did have an ROG on loan from someone once. I think it was the third generation. So we're up to kind of 5 and 6 now. But what I was going to say was the cameras tend to be a bit crap. And also what's really annoying is that they just never seem to have Qi charging. I know that that's probably true of lots of other phones, but when you're talking about a phone that is going to be clearly over £1,000, I'd imagine, for the ROG Phone 6, I don't know, it just feels to me like Qi charging should be included.
Well, where's it going to go?
Well,
because you've got fans and coolers and all sorts of things all over the back of these things.
But they're plug-in ones, aren't they?
Some of them can be, but I don't think this one's going to be. There's going to be they're trying to keep the processor and this graphene sheet close to the surface. Having a copper coil or whatever in there is probably going to keep heat in and affect the internal temperatures of the device.
On the 5, the 5 version on the back, yeah, okay, it's covered in kind of fancy graphics and LEDs and light shows and all the rest of it, but I don't see why there shouldn't also be space in there somewhere for a coil to be a charging device. Anyway, I'm obviously very old-fashioned, wanting Qi charging.
Well, you're going to have to write to ROG.
Yeah, give them a piece of my mind.
And then they'll write back and say, no, that's a big copper thing. It'll keep the heat in. No.
Yeah.
Copper's good for heat, isn't it? Or they have copper pipes because they like copper pipe. I don't know. If only we knew someone who was like a physicist who could tell us whether or not that would be a good thing on the back of the phone.
Copper radiates heat, doesn't it? If you touch a copper pipe with hot water in it, you burn yourself. So,
but then I'm just assuming that Qi charging is made from copper. It might not be. It might be made from Neanderthal hair or something like that. Or
I think it probably is, yeah.
The dung of someone's ancestors.
Mammoth hair.
Yeah. And that's why it's not in, because it's difficult to find these days. They have to wait for the permafrost. What are we talking about?
Let's talk about something else that's missing in phones very often. Micro SD card slots. But Steve and I were concluding actually that we have come to the point, we think, where if we've got a phone with 256 gigabytes of storage, we're kind of okay. There was a time when I really, really wanted, as you know, to have massive micro SD cards to carry all my media with me at all times. And to some degree, I'm still drawn to that, making my phone in my pocket, my computer in my pocket, and loads of storage to carry what I want at all times. Anyway, the news here is that apparently this firm called Micron have produced a 1.5 terabyte micro SD card.
Wow.
We've been looking at 1 terabyte cards for the last probably 3 years now, and they've gone down from about 450 quid over that time to now about 150 or less if you look out for a bargain. But yeah, 1.5 terabytes is on the horizon apparently, and yeah, the next stop can only be 2 terabytes surely. Why haven't we got 4 terabytes and 8? Come on, you lazy scientists.
This should be closer to what you're expecting, should it not? Because 1 terabyte would actually work out to be about 900 megabytes. So this would be maybe 1.2 meg or 1.2 terabytes whenever you deduct the whole 1024 thing.
Yeah, but I want 8 terabytes.
Oh.
So, I mean, I do get the fact that, no doubt the fact that people don't want these, and I'm quite surprised that they're doing this, frankly, in a world which is always connected and people don't need massive storage because they are streaming everything anyway. I get that I'm on my own, but I was just quite surprised to see this that someone has done this, and maybe it's only been done as a technical exercise. They're talking about putting these cards in, business machines for surveillance and stuff. But I don't know. It just seems like the right way to go to me. Do you think you would be interested? I dread to think how much it would cost.
Well, yeah. I did notice that in the opening line of this article, it does say that you can use this in your vehicle dash camera. And I thought, well, 1.5 terabytes on my dash camera, that would last for, I don't know, it'll record a year's worth of driving around. But yeah, whenever you're capturing things in 4K, you do need this larger size. But that's an awful lot, for a drive to fail with that amount of stuff on it, which, that would be bad. And I've never heard of Micron before, so I don't know that I'd rush out and give them my money in order to get 1.5 terabytes. I'd maybe wait for SanDisk or one of the other companies to have the device of a company that I'm more familiar with.
Or Samsung.
Maybe.
That's the one that has got the best press at the moment, I think. Samsung cards. We were talking about it in the group this week because Aidan Bell was looking for some cards for his various machines for recording, and the general consensus was, Samsung is probably the best.
Okay. Good news. Top tip there for people. Go buy Samsung cards. Next up, if you're in America, you're probably not going to be able to avail of this just yet, unless you have some sort of way to import. But the Nothing phone is going to be sold.
You can't. There's no point because it's not supporting their bandwidth lengths and all that, and it won't work there. Sorry.
So you're not going to have a quad band phone, then, or a tri-band, or
yeah.
The Nothing phone is going to be sold via an invite system, much like they did with the original OnePlus phones. So if you're cool, you can have one. If you're not cool, then tough. You're going to have to make do with a Samsung A53.
And to make it worse, they're talking about doing a buy a ticket racket as well. So you can join the waiting list, which I've already done. I put my name down, but now they're going to do this thing like, do you remember that Anchor speaker that I put £1 down on?
Yeah.
And I never bought, wasted £1. Well, they're talking about doing a similar thing with this. You not only have you got to go on the waiting list, but you've also got to buy a ticket. And I don't know if that's the full price of the phone or just £1 like Anchor, but it just seems like a hype-generating racket to me, doesn't it to you?
Absolutely. I'm a bit of a gamer. I don't go in for pre-ordering games in any way, and I recommend people don't pre-order games. Wait until the game comes out, and they seem to be, because there's a bit of a furore about pre-ordering games. So they're applying that to technology now as well, where you pre-order your tech, and you're you have to buy into it. No way. I'll wait for the trusted folk to get a piece of hardware, review it, and then let us know whether or not we should buy it. Yeah, independent people.
It's not like it's a Kickstarter campaign either, is it?
No.
This is a private company. It's not a crowdsourcing thing.
Yeah, I don't understand. Obviously they need to have the numbers. So if they've got thousands of people then who have put down their $1 or however much, or $50 or whatever it is they're going to put down. It's not even going to be dollars, is it? It's going to be euros maybe.
Yeah.
They will be able to go, right, well, we have these manufacturing expectations. That's useful, but that's cheating the business model, because you don't know whether or not something's going to be a hit or not. And obviously Samsung don't do that. End up with millions of phones sitting in their stock inventory.
Yeah.
That's what nothing's looking to avoid, which will help them succeed, I suppose. But no, I don't buy that at all.
I think people will reject it. The most interesting thing about this phone is the back of it with all the lights show thing going on, which actually I think is really attractive. It's a nice, there's been a couple of videos on YouTube about people that have got them in hand, and they've been allowed to show that feature of them, and it does look very smart and very clever, and I'm sure it'll be lots of fun, and a unique selling point for the Nothing phone. But I think people are going to switch off from this stupid booking scheme and prepaying scheme. I don't think that it's going to be a success at all, but we'll see.
Well, yeah, they mentioned in the article here that it was 2014 OnePlus did that. How many companies have done that since?
Anchor.
Well, yes, but they've done it for different things, and I've bought into it as well. I looked at a video camera whenever I was starting to work from home and things, and wanted a better quality video for web meetings, and then thought, why am I spending money on that whenever people can just see a grainy picture of me over the laptop here? And I wasted £1 buying into that, and never ended up buying the camera.
Yes. Yeah, well, I don't know. It just seems like nothing will be nothing.
But you never know. They might do the sort of cost price of the phone, where they say, give us $200, which is how much it costs to manufacture the phone, and then you can buy it for another $200 on top of that.
Yeah,
and then you're paying the profit whenever it comes to it.
The word is that it's going to be €499. Word on the street is, so that's the price it's going to be. So yes, they might do that, £200 and then 300 when we deliver. But I don't know. Apart from the tech press, who are buying it with other people's money generally, I can't see the general public buying into a scheme like that.
No,
really can't.
No, unless you just want to be cool or an influencer and things like that, and have the very chic, cool, special phone. So, no. Do you want to have a go, Ted?
Next.
Okay, we'll go with that. That sounds better. NZXT is producing a high-performance thermal paste that you can put on your toothbrush and brush your teeth with. Very useful. Whenever you're building a computer, you have your processor, and then you attach your heatsink to the top of the processor, and that, no matter how hard you tighten them together, because they're both metal, there's still going to be a very fine gap that can build up air, which heats up, and it can be counterproductive to your actual processor. The best thing to do is put thermal paste in there, and it helps suck the heat out of the processor up into the heatsink, and then the fan cools that down, so your processor can run cooler than it should do. So good thermal paste comes at cost. Buying cheap thermal paste doesn't work quite as well. Using toothpaste is ridiculous. So Next, or whatever you want to call them, are developing their own high-performance thermal paste. That's going to cost a wee bit of money as well. That's $20, I think, for a 15-gram syringe, or a 3-gram syringe is going to be $10. Wow. And I'd say a 3-gram syringe will just do you or I for one install. You shouldn't have to replace your thermal paste for a good amount of time, but it is actually recommended doing every once in a while, just to make your computer run that wee bit cooler. I think I did mine a wee while ago. I did my son's too on his very old i7 from, 15 years ago. That's the first time I've done it, and it helped no end. So thermal paste is good stuff.
So what's so special about this particular thermal paste? Is it the price, or
it's strawberry flavour? I don't know. It conducts
high performance
heat better.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's the whole thing as well. I do like the debate. It's always interesting to see, which way you recommend putting your thermal paste on. And I'd like to know, listener, what way do you put your thermal paste on? Do you do a pea-sized droplet in the center of the processor? Do you do 5 little teeny tiny ones in the corners and one in the center? Do you do a Zorro Z? Do you do an X? What way do you put your thermal paste on? Let us know.
What you're doing here is you're trying to increase conductivity.
That's it.
Right, okay. I've never built a computer in my life, so I don't know anything about this. I didn't even know it existed.
Okay, well, it's handy stuff.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I have 2 tubes of it just there
that
I've never used. Oh. And it's probably well out of its sell-by date or whatever, but yeah. So, next up is Flap Your Trap about an app. First up is Instagram, that is going to be looking to verify people's ages by asking them to do a video selfie of themselves like that. As everybody knows, we love Mark Zuckerberg on this podcast, and the idea of sending him a video of you verifying your age is great, isn't it?
What could go wrong? No, to be fair, they're only doing this for people that are under 13, and only if they're honest about that, and only if they change their birth date on their account. So they're not kind of broad sweeping everyone. You could argue, you could try to argue that they're doing the proper thing here and doing the decent thing and protecting people that are under 13. Or no, sorry, they've got to be 13 to have an account. But people that are changing their date of birth and blah blah blah, and they're using this smart technology to then scan pictures and make decisions about whether someone looks the age they should be. Well, we all know that lots of people don't look the age they are, and particularly when you come to different cultures. For example, in the Far East, in Japan, I've known, we used to take in Japanese students, and when they turned up, you think to yourself, good grief, they're never 18, and they look as though they're about 14. And that was quite a thing with those lovely people from Japan, so who knows how badly this algorithm based thing will work anyway. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I think we should maybe change the title of it to Mark Zuckerberg wants you to send children's pictures or videos to him so that he can look at them.
No. That's scandalous to suggest that about Mark Zuckerberg. However much you can't stand the bloke.
No, I think this is obviously it's going to roll out to a small percentage before that this allows them to iron out the kinks and the legalities before they do it to everyone, and then Mark Zuckerberg can just lie in his bed and see everyone's face and be able to just put that as a I imagine he's just got a file on everyone with their internet search histories, all their kinks and quirks, and then they'll just have an introductory thing. I am such and such, and I am aged blah, attached to the file. And if they start early, get the kids while they're doing it, then they'll just grow up and the file will just increase. And he'll be king of the world and have everything in there that he needs to know about you going forward.
Or making sure that other people don't see how old people are, like they've done in the last few years with on Internet Movie Database. I've noticed where you've got young actors, and if you look at the dates of birth on those, they're not available, they're not there, and they're not published, and so that's actually protecting them. I know you've got nothing good to say about Mr. Facebook, but perhaps there is a good side to this as well. Let's be positive.
No. Let's just shut Instagram down. It doesn't really do anyone any favours. Let's just make a photography app that allows you to put photography up that's cool.
Google Photos.
Yes, and you can share it with chums.
Yeah.
All right, Twitter is going to be putting in a new thing called Notes, and it bridges the gap between people posting things on Twitter with web links to other services. So they're noticing traffic leaving their social network to go and see a website that may contain more information because they're not able to put all of the information they need into the original tweet, because tweets can only be 280 characters. So you'll be able to share a note that can be a size of about 2,500 words, which is a decent size, to be honest. It's a good essay, and put that out, and you can then edit those notes going forward. So if you want to put out a big spiel, you don't have to do a multi-tweet or whatever, where you see people just putting out 40 tweets and you read down it that you can't change at a later date. This way you can put out a big note of bulky nature and then change it as necessary, and that might get around the whole edit tweet debacle that is descended upon Twitter. What do you think? Do you think this is a good idea?
I think it's a great idea, and they should have done this years ago. What Twitter are trying to do is to keep people inside Twitter. That's what this is all about. Because at the moment, what's happening is that people are posting links to blogs and articles outside of Twitter, and what they've realised, according to this article anyway, is that if they provide a space inside Twitter where people can post articles and blogs and whatever else they want to do, then they'll just keep people under the umbrella for longer, instead of going off to some other service and reading stuff elsewhere and then getting lured away even further from Twitter before they come back to it if they do. So I think it's a great idea. I think it's a super idea, and it would be one of the reasons that I would consider using Twitter more than I do, if you could actually have a more useful long spiel function inside it. Yes.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I am worried that it's going to really change the idea. I love Twitter that you don't have to put too much effort. You can focus on the words that you're putting out, and they're going to be trying to be as effective as possible in that small amount. I think this could see people getting a bit more lazy about things and not being quite as focused on how well they're phrasing things.
You can still use it in the way you want to.
You can,
You don't have to do any of this.
It makes it a wee bit more like Facebook, where people can just go and rant and put together that bigger rant rather than just saying short, concise feelings and reasons.
No, but you'll still have to link out to it. So if you put a note up on your account, you've still got to go into the Twitter feed and say, here's a link to my note, and it'll be a separate URL.
Yeah.
But it depends what they do with it. Are they going to allow videos in there? Is it going to be broadened out beyond just words? Who knows what might come along in the future, and what's going to happen. One of the concerning things about this, though, is that they also acknowledge that there's a drive to less and less written words, less and less articles to read, and more videos, which is what, one of the things that I rant about. I can't, I know videos are useful in many ways, but I'd much rather consume my news and consume stuff by reading it, and this will help with that, I think, certainly in the short term. It's a shame, I think, that suddenly we're all expected to watch stuff all the time, and particularly when people put blind links out, you don't know what you're going to follow. I refuse to go there myself. Do you?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of the drive for people to decentralize, where people are sort of taking they're trying to re-own what they produce, where you maybe set up a blog like both you and I have, and or a photography blog or something like that, and you maybe host it yourself, rather than putting it onto Instagram, where Instagram then owns your content and you're at the mercy of Instagram, or Medium, where you maybe want to type up a rant about something and put it out there. For years I was doing little reviews and putting them on IMDb and Letterboxd and things like that. And I decided, why am I putting it there? And having to cut and paste and put it across different ones. I'll put it on mine, and it can be mine. I control it. And Twitter, I think, are noticing people going like I would do, where I've typed up a review of such and such and sticking it out on Twitter, and then people click the link and move away from Twitter onto my blog. Yeah. So now they're going, well, why not just put together a note and put your review out as a note attached to your tweet,
and keep people inside Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of a war on decentralizing things. To keep people in the Twitter sphere and in Facebook and in that, they're vying for people to stay on their platforms, rather than moving on out. And no, that's one thing that would annoy me.
At the end of the day, though, someone else is likely to always, unless you make your own server and you make your own word processing thing and document storage thing on your own server, and it goes out, someone somewhere is always going to be the ultimate owner of what you're doing, aren't they? If you put it on Twitter's notes or Google's Blogger or WordPress or whatever it is, it's not really your own, is it?
Well, no, it is. I'd say WordPress, for example, is just a publishing tool. WordPress do not stick their hooks into your information. I suppose you could say that your domain host, they would be the ones who are profiteering, because you've got to have a location for those images to be stored.
Yes.
But yeah, that's always been the way of the web.
Yeah, definitely.
But at least you have a wee bit more control of that, and you can take it from domain host to domain host.
Yeah.
You can set up your own server, and have it running with your own storage and things like that. But then that's hard to do. Yeah. It's much easier to get someone else to do it for you.
Exactly, absolutely. And this is why Google had this takeaway service, takeaway, where they were saying, look, we want to reassure you that if you use our tools to put your stuff and you want to take it away at some point, you can take it all away. I don't know if Twitter do that, whether if you stuff Twitter full of your notes on their new system, and then 3 years down the line you want to get it all out. I don't. How easy is that going to be? How easy is that going to be on any platform to do?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it'll be really complicated, and also that you need to look into the fine print of any images that you've used in the note. Are they going to be copyrighted to you or copyrighted to Twitter, like it worked out with Instagram?
Exactly. That's one thing I like about MeWe. You don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. MeWe's a closed lockdown shop, and so almost anything goes in that respect.
Yeah, true. All right, moving on to Amazon's assistant Alexa. I'll try not to say that too often in case it wakes your devices. They are going to be dealing with the idea of having custom voices that you want to use. If you were to give them, what is it, a minute's worth of speech, they should be able to mimic anyone's voice, whether they're alive or dead. So we've been talking for an hour and 9 minutes, and you could use our voices to communicate with you over Alexa, which sounds deeply scary.
Yeah, one of the points that somebody in the group was making was about banking, that they know of one.
Excuse me?
Well,
Oh, banking.
they know of one banking outfit that are working on allowing you to use your voice to access your account. So no fingerprints, no passwords on your phone. Just use your voice, and then who knows what the implications of this could be. So yeah, alive or dead, all you need is somebody's voice, and you can make it all happen. I think it is a bit scary, and presumably Amazon bods are onto this, and they know that there's going to be risks involved with this, and they need to write in some way of controlling that. But yeah, have you got? I don't know. I was thinking actually if I've got any audio recordings of any of my dead relatives. That I could do with this, and I don't think I have. I don't think no audio recordings of anyone really that isn't alive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the same. We actually did that. My mother told me a couple of years ago that she can't remember my dad's voice.
Yeah.
So I went on a bit of a crusade to see if I could find it somewhere.
Right.
Looking through videos and his old dictaphones and things like that. And I wasn't able to find anything. I found maybe it was about 5 words on one of his tapes of his dictaphones where his secretary had wiped them. But you got the odd word here and there where she'd maybe wiped 5 minutes, and his thing was 5 minutes and 4 seconds long.
Right.
So you got a couple of extra words at the end. And I put them together and was like, this is all I could find out of everything that he had. Mm. Whereas whenever it comes to thankfully the day whenever I die, my son will be able to go, wow, I have far too much of my dad's voice. Because I've got all those stupid podcasts that he did and all the talk sports stuff, because that was 4 years worth of broadcasting on that, and I've got all that backed up as well, and he'll just go in and go, sick of his voice.
Yeah, do you really want Alexa then using that voice to be talking to you? Goodness sake. Yeah, go away, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens with this. I'm sure this will be a hard one, to get past, and I don't think people will probably use it for a little while, but then want to start using something else. I know that Morgan Freeman was one that people were looking to mimic, and that would be quite nice.
Yeah.
But if it allows you access to his bank account, I don't think he'll be too keen.
No, but that would be quite good fun, wouldn't it? If you didn't use it for anything except actors and famous people, Margaret Thatcher talking to you from Amazon, that would be funny, wouldn't it? And
yes.
And if it's on that kind of level, I suppose it's a bit different. But someone will exploit it.
Well, I've just noticed in the show notes there that you've typed up that you wanted Linda Lusardi, her voice on yours, saying, "Welcome home, Ted."
Yeah, that would be very nice.
well, let's do some now so that people could say, "Oh, welcome home. We've missed you.
Welcome home. This is Ted.
Time for bed." That's disturbing.
Very much.
No. Okay, next up is Google's Password Manager is going to get some new features. Obviously, Google Password, I think, was it Steve Litchfield typed up an interesting password blog post, what was it, last week or the week before?
I think
maybe about how he uses his,
yeah,
and Keepa was his suggestion. Whereas I use Bitwarden. But if you're fully inside the whole Google Chrome thing, you might find that the Google Password Manager kind of meets most of your needs. It doesn't meet the needs of being able to use an application outside of Chrome, which is a real pain in the derriere.
Who wants to do that?
Well, I do that all the time. So, if you've got your Bitwarden app or something running on Windows 11, then you can use it to sign yourself into various other apps if you're using or applications or whatever. But Google Password has gained a few new features which they've added in. They're allowing you to manually add a website password without being prompted. I didn't realize that was a thing until I read this, that you couldn't manually add it. You had to wait for Google to go, here, do you want us to save that password for you?
Yeah, no, we talked about that on you've probably forgotten, a few shows ago that was coming along, and you could go in and do it manually. It was in my Chrome section roundup, but I know you don't listen to me, so it's fine.
Well, tit for tat.
Quid pro quo.
Quite right. Why did we cover this last week?
No, it wasn't last week. It was a few weeks ago.
Oh, right. So this is old news. Okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
And I have to, before you go on, I have to admit that I've not read this article, so don't quiz me on it.
Oh, right. Darn. Oh, I'll just get rid of all these questions then. There's 14 of them I have. Right. Well, since we've covered them all before, we'll just quickly go through it. You can manually add them to it, and you have the ability to add notes to a saved password. So if you need something else, I can't remember what the example I had of that was.
Well, you could say this is my account that I hold at Barclays, which deals with my mother's estate. There's your text, entry. It's a bit like having a text entry and a calendar entry in Google Calendar. It's hidden unless you want to go and read it and be reminded what's in there.
Well, I'm trying to work out what, because the Bitwarden one has a notes section. I'm trying to work out what's the best way to describe the way that I use the notes section. And I think TourGuard, that will be work, where I can log into TourGuard. I also have my login details for VPNs and things like that saved into the notes section, so I don't have to log into TourGuard to get the password and the user information to be able to set up my WireGuard and stuff like that. So I keep those in the notes section because there's a password under a password.
Yep.
And you don't necessarily need to set the password, but you can use that to jump. Never mind. You can contain hints and relevant information for it. And this is in addition to the password checkup feature, which I'm not entirely enthusiastic about. It does annoy me that it keeps saying, here, you've used that password before. But it does that for ones that I have for services inside my own house. I've got a few local host type things, and it's constantly reminding me, going, here, you've used that password on this local host service. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's easy to remember.
They're trying to get you to use their suggested ones, and I've given into that now, and I do use them. I did come unstuck with one, which was the aforementioned Letterbox, actually. I went to change my password in Letterbox, and it wouldn't let me in. I had to know the old password to get in to do that. And for some reason, I hadn't saved that, and I hadn't told Google to save it, and I had to ask them to reset my password.
Yes.
But that was the only time that system has failed me. But then I live in Google services, and I understand other people don't.
Changing your Google password as well is another pain in the ass. If you, I've had to do that before, and the Chromebook, whenever you go to log into your Chromebook, you have to put in your new password, and then you have to put in your old password. And if you've overwritten your old password with your new password, then you're a bit scuppered, and you have to go through a whole reset the password thing, because I got stuck with that once before, where I'd overwritten the password manager thing. Luckily, Bitwarden can keep a list of previous passwords that you had for that particular website or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's how I got around that, but I don't know that Google Passwords does that.
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't use the system. I also use Data and Keep, and I've got my own code. So up until trusting Google to give me gobbledygook passwords, I've always had them in my Keep document, and prior to that in a Google Drive document. And inside that, I've also got my own code, so that if anyone ever did open that document, they would still need to know the code in my head to work out what it is anyway.
Excellent.
So I do get that we all just use different ways. I choose to completely trust Google, and I completely understand why you and Steve and lots of other people don't want to do that. I think that it's all encrypted and it's fine, and I've got my own system and it works for me. Each to their own.
Yes, each to their own. Yours is silly, ours is good.
What are the other changes?
I don't know. I clicked away from it.
Home screen shortcut and built-in Android experience. I'm telling you, Google is rolling out a new built-in experience. Access your passwords. I've done this one. So on Android, you can, if you go to security settings, you can put a shortcut on your home screen.
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's right.
So and I've done that one. And default settings in Chrome. What's that one? Password manager. Don't know what that one's about. We'll ignore that, shall we?
Yeah, we'll talk about it next week whenever we've researched it more. Okay, so what's happening in the world of Chrome?
Right, Chrome Roundup is manually updating Google Chrome extensions. You can do this manually. If you open up a window in Chrome and type in Chrome : / extensions, you get a button. If you turn on developer options, you get a button, and you can then click on the button that says update, and it forces all your Chrome extensions to update. You in theory, you shouldn't have to do that. The extensions should update themselves automatically, but I did notice that they don't, because when I first did this a week or so ago, it did loads of updating on extensions, and so if you want to do it manually, you can. ChromeOS is now able to open more archive files, including 7Z, which was 7-zip, ISO and tar, and so instead of having to go off to Windows to open up zip files, you can do that straight on a Chromebook, or in any instance of Chrome really that's using Drive and so forth. And that drag and drop support thingy, which I mentioned in that previous show I just talked about, for download UI, that still hasn't popped up, but it's coming, and now they're using drag and drop. So what's going to happen is that in your top right hand corner to the right of your URL bar, you're going to have a little button that shows downloads, and you can click on that and you'll see an instant pop up of downloads. At the moment, you've got to go to the three dots in the right hand corner, then click on downloads to see a whole page of your list of downloads. That's going to be on the fly list, and furthermore, you can, when you get that list, you can drag one of those items from there straight onto your desktop, in Windows anyway, and it'll copy it across from downloads into your computer. So those are my three highlights.
Nice. And accessing ISO and zip or 7Z files will be very handy. Although I can't think of any time I've ever needed to do an ISO on a Chromebook, but that opens up the option now.
Isn't it ISO that are the ones that are used a lot by extensions? I read something.
No,
about...
not so much.
No? Okay.
Where you maybe download something like Windows 11 will come down in an ISO, or if you rip a CD, you can rip it to ISO.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Windows 11 allows you to mount it in a sort of virtual CD-ROM drive.
Yeah.
So Chrome's obviously allowing you to do that too.
Yeah. Chromebooks are becoming better and better all the time. Taking them, I think the world needs to take them seriously as a proper pucker. There's developments just all the time, isn't there? Yes, you agree.
Yes, I do love my Chromebook, really. All right, the Hark Back for this week is a very, very niche one, but I wanted to mark it because it's important to me. Dizzy is turning 35 this year, or around about now. It was 35 years ago that we first got Dizzy, the cartoon adventure. I don't know if you are aware of Dizzy at all, if you've ever experienced one of his fun outings.
I've never heard of it, sorry.
Oh, right, okay.
I'm happy to learn.
Okay, this was a little character who first debuted on the Amstrad CPC 464 way back in, 35 years ago, a long time ago, as a series of kind of graphic-y adventure games. I can't exactly say they're full adventure games because there was a large amount of platforming action inside of them as well. The very first game was called, well, just Dizzy, and it found this little egg-type character, who he was an egg with boxing gloves and feet, and he would walk around this magical kingdom having to solve little puzzles and make death-defying leaps over creatures that would kill him quite easily. The game was really captivating. It wasn't the first game I played. I played the second one first up, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing whenever I came to it. If you think of the earlier games of the likes of, say, Maniac Miner and Jet Set Willy, and you were to add in a bit of puzzle solving along the way, where you would find things like a hammer or a glue gun or this sort of thing, and you would be able to use them in another screen somewhere else in the game, you could progress the adventure and open up new screens. There was a story where Dizzy, the character of Dizzy, had to go and find his love, Daisy, who has been kidnapped by the evil wizard Zax, and work through the whole Yolkfolk world that they were in. There would be various different characters that came along. Denzel and Dylan spring to mind. But these were little games that kind of really captured my imagination. They were what I was looking for when I was growing up, because I wasn't quite into the full Super Mario experience. I wanted a bit more from it. And that's what this had. You had a certain amount of platforming action, but then that little bit of quest style puzzles helped you along the way, and you would get so much satisfaction out of working out that if you found the Acme bird seed or the raincoat, then you could make it past the birds that killed you on a particular screen, or that rain cloud that was dropping acid rain. It was such a funny series of adventures as well that had loads of little jokes along the way, and the guys that created it, the Oliver twins, their names were, they released them through Codemasters on budget as well. So they were $1.99, $2.99 games that you'd be able to pick up out of your local newsagent or your local computer shop and play on the cassette. There was a load of games. The first one obviously was called Dizzy. The second one was Treasure Island's Dizzy, which had a wee bit of sample text. You had 1 life in that game, actually. In the first one, you had about 9 lives or so. But in the second one, you had 1 life. And if you died, you would go right back to the very start of the adventure. And most of the adventure was set between 2 different islands, and Dizzy couldn't breathe. So he would have to wear a rubber snorkel and go from one island to the other. But if you dropped the rubber snorkel underwater, you died instantly. And that was you, over and done with. So you had an inventory system where you could carry 3 different things in that game. And you would have to cycle through them. But you would have to pick them up in a particular way, so that if you needed to use something underwater, you had to have the snorkel underneath the saltwater spade or something like that, if you needed to dig a hole. Because whenever you drop the saltwater spade to dig the hole, if the rubber snorkel was ahead of it, you would drop it first, die, and you wouldn't be able to proceed in the game. It was great. Then came Fantasy World Dizzy, which is arguably the favourite of the whole bunch. It was the one that was kind of the gold finger of the Dizzy games, that just got everything the way people loved it. All the locations were great. The fun and sense of adventure were there. The puzzles were really quite cunning. I mean, that's the one that opens with the very first thing you have to do is solve this puzzle to get out of a cell, where you have to pick up a stack of leaves and set them in front of the door, and then you use the match on the leaves to light a fire. Then you have to use the bucket to fill it with water, and then pour it on the leaves to put it out, and that gets you out of the cell. It's just a really simple collection of puzzles in order to get out of that one screen into the next screen. Mm-hmm. And then you pick up various different things, and you find them all over the place, and then you think, oh, I've got to go all the way over to the other side of the map to pick up the crowbar in order to get over to this side of the map to be able to push the minecart out of the way to be able to get into the mines. Really simple. Then there's Magic Land Dizzy, which is the one I knew the best. I spent years on that because it was so hard, it was so large. Spellbound Dizzy, Dizzy Prince of the Yolkfolk was quite a short one. I think that's available on Android, actually. You can play that on your phone with a bit of a graphical update as well. And then Crystal Kingdom Dizzy was the last one I remember buying. There was a few after that came for the Nintendo Entertainment System and the Mega Drive and the Game Gear and stuff like that. But he became a little bit of a mascot of the 8-bit era, and they started developing other games as well, little arcade games. There was Fast Food Dizzy, Quick Snacks Dizzy, Panic Bubble Dizzy, Dizzy Down the Rapids, that were nowhere near as much fun as the original adventure games, but kind of scratched that itch where they would be able to put one of those out in between the bigger adventures to keep people enthusiastic about it. And it was. I preferred Dizzy over the likes of Sonic and Mario and things, primarily because I had an Amstrad and not a Nintendo or a Sega at the time. So I really chowed down on these games. And you can even buy on the Evercade, there's a Codemasters collection that has a bunch of different Dizzy games on there. Mm. Or is it the Dizzy collection? It's the Oliver Twins collection. And it has a few newer Dizzy games as well that were developed for the NES quite recently. And even in the last couple of years, there was one that came out that the Oliver Twins made called, where is it? I think is it Mystery World Dizzy? That was released on the Spectrum last year. Wonderful Dizzy, that's what it was. 2020, it was a ZX Spectrum game. And it came out, and it looks fantastic. It was programmed by another fella, but the Oliver Twins came in and designed the game and the puzzles and things like that. And it's just incredible that they released a new Dizzy game 2 years ago now on the Spectrum, and hopefully we're going to get ports of that out to the Amstrad and the Commodore 64, just to really grab that nostalgia factor. So you've never played Dizzy then, Ted?
No, I've just put a link in the show notes to my abandonware, and that's a search on the word Dizzy, and there's loads of them in there, so they can be played for free. Really, most of them seem to be DOS thingies. And no, I have not ever heard of this, but from what you're saying, it's quite. You're obviously very enthusiastic, and it looks a lot of good fun. I'm also going to put a link in the show notes to the cartridge you're talking about on Amazon, which is $14.99 for the Evercade, and it's got 11 games on it. It looks good fun. It's a shame I've never heard of it, but probably because I'm a different age to you. 1987 was 35 years ago, incidentally.
Right, okay.
So,
wow, yeah.
But on that abandonware page, there's loads of them, and it looks like you can just play whichever ones you want.
There's a lot of weird games mixed in there, but there's Dizzy Prince of the Yolkfolk, The Ultimate Cartoon Adventure, that was the original then, and then Dizzy Down the Rapids was one of the arcades. Dizzy Panic was an arcade. Mm-hmm. Collection was... That's right, it came out with... I suppose that's an Amiga version, which has Treasure Island and Fantasy World, but I have the collections that came out as well. I forgot about those, yeah. Mm. And Crystal Kingdom Dizzy was the last game that came out. It was a full-price game. Yeah, and it had 4 levels. And remember, I got sick of... I couldn't get past a puzzle, but you were able to put in a password to get to the last level, and it was a 4-letter word, and I was like, oh, what could it be? And the first one I tried, which was just book, it worked and got me to the last level. I was like, oh, right, okay. Yeah. And I got stuck on that level because I've never completed Crystal Kingdom Dizzy, but it came at a time where I was kind of just getting out of these games and moving into Mega Drive and Genesis and preferring the whole sort of Sunset Riders or something like that, or more advanced games, and Dizzy just didn't quite capture it but for nostalgia purposes, it's a series of games that I loved back then.
So if you look at the back of the packet on the Evercade link I just put in the notes, mm-hmm. Are all of the ones on that are shown, those 11 games, are they all the good ones, or are some of them a bit rubbish?
Well, out of that, Treasure Island Dizzy is as a classic. Fantastic Dizzy was the one that was released on the NES. That's a huge game. Right. Really is. Firehawk was another one by the Oliver Twins, and Super Robin Hood. That's a really hard game. Professional BMX simulator there. Yeah, that was all right. I didn't mind that. Dizzy the Adventurer. That's pretty much Dizzy Prince of the Yolkfolk. Go Dizzy Go's crap. Panic Dizzy's crap. Wonderland Dizzy was good. I've played through that on the Evercade and completed it. It was worthwhile. Dreamland Pogie was our side-scrolling arcade game. And then Mystery World Dizzy, I've played through that as well. That has a lot of elements of Fantasy World Dizzy in it. So, yeah, it's a really good collection of games. I'd say some of them are a bit crap, but some of them are very much worth playing. And you like your side-scrolling action games. So Super Robin Hood would actually really suit you down to the ground. It's an absolute bastard of a game. And you'll rely on the Evercade's ability to save to get through that game, because there's no way anyone... Well, I've watched to get through a couple of the puzzles on that, because you get lost in it quite easily. Going and having a look at some people who've done playthroughs on the Nintendo, and they've managed to beat that game in like 25 minutes. It's insane that they know that game so well they can jump over those arrows and things like that. It's a really hard game, but it's not Dizzy, so it doesn't matter.
All right, okay. Well, that's really interesting, and I do look out for Evercade games now that attract me, because, to be honest, the three that came with my set are kind of a bit old and dull, and something a bit more up to date, like these look as though they probably are. A bit more graphically interesting, I probably would go for. But I'll have a go on the My Abandonware first.
That cartridge, the Oliver Twins one, is the one that I've played the most in my game, Evercade. Right. And I've completed a good few of those. I haven't completed Fantastic Dizzy. I'm halfway through that, I'd say. But it's just so big that there's no way I'm going to complete it anytime soon.
Very good. Nice Hark Back for you, anyway. And new learning for me.
Yeah, go for it. Give them a go. Treasure Island Dizzy and Fantasy World Dizzy first. Okay, the Bargain Basement, where there's cheap things to be had. And we're going to start off with one that I picked up this morning, because it's going to be the new change that I'm making, as I ranted about the Samsung Galaxy S7 earlier. I'm getting rid of it, and I'm going to use this instead, because it's a solid little tablet from what I can see from the reviews and things, and it's only £209.99 right now, reduced from £279.99. I've been watching it for a while because it was sitting at £250 for long enough, but now it's down to £209. It makes the Lenovo Tab P11 Plus pretty good value for money. This is the 6GB RAM, 128GB storage version. It says it's running Android 11, but I think Android 12 is on its way. That was one of the things I checked out, because Lenovo has a terrible track record of updating, but they have confirmed that they will be doing it for it. So at some point it should arrive, but I imagine that's going to be it ditched. It has a 2K screen that people say is really good, so I'm going to have a go at that, and I'm just going to 128GB of storage, then stick in an SD card, and that's me downloading as much media as I want, and I'll be able to sit and use it. And that's all I want it for, is playback of Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Plex.
Quad JBL speakers with Dolby Atmos. The first thing I saw was the 4 speakers on the edges. That looks really nifty as well. Be very interesting to hear what you find with this one. Yeah.
Well, they say that MediaTek Helio inside it is actually a bit of a powerhouse, and it's one of the best MediaTek devices, because there is a Snapdragon version of this that you can buy through Lenovo's website. It's a wee bit more expensive, but they say this MediaTek, for what I'm using it for, will make the most of it. So I think that makes like a sensible solution to be able to grab it. Also, I tracked down the official Lenovo cover for this. It's quite hard to find on Amazon. There's only a couple left. So if you want one, let me know and I'll tell you what the search string is to find it, because it's not obvious. And if you're buying one, you might be able to get the official cover for it, because they're like hen's teeth. I couldn't find it anywhere, and it took a lot of tracking down to be able to get it. Yes.
Very good.
Cool.
Okay, my next one is a recurring theme, I'm afraid, which is my lovely Elgato Stream Deck, but this is the XL, and I've been waiting for this to drop in price for so long. It was at one point £169.99, I think it was like a year ago, and it's usually 229.99, and it's now been reduced to 179.99. So there's 50 quid off, and I'm very tempted, but knowing that it was £10 less, I think, well, it might be on the sale in the middle of July. It might just be a bit less money. I'd really like it. Anyway, yeah. So if anyone's into that, I've got the standard version, which has got 15 buttons. The XL has got 32 buttons, and I just really fancy it. I love my Stream Deck, and I use it all the time. And 15 buttons sometimes is a bit restrictive, and you've got to kind of dig into menus and stuff. So the XL is that much better, but I think I'm going to have to just wait a bit longer.
Yeah, I went on to see if it was available on that monthly thing, because again, that the Lenovo is, what is it, £42 a month or something like that.
You see, I don't know what Amazon are doing, because it says exclusive for Amazon Prime members, pay over 6 months at no additional cost, right? And then if you follow that link, it takes you through to the Barclays thing, which is not no additional cost, it's 10.9% variable. So I'm not sure what that line in there about the exclusive for Prime is, because I can't see that anywhere. Not in the basket, not here, nowhere. It just doesn't seem to be anywhere except that. Can you see that line there?
I can, yeah.
Because you click through to try and put it in the basket or something, and then that suddenly has gone. To be honest, if I could pay that over 6 months, I would buy it because I want it so much. But not that it makes a huge difference, to be honest. But how do you get that exclusive from Amazon Prime members? I don't get it.
It does say there, learn more about installments. But no, don't know.
No.
Maybe you have to take out a credit card. Maybe there's another connection somewhere else.
Add to basket. Then if I go through to the basket, go to the basket, and it's in the basket now. No indication anywhere about paying for it. If I save the other things in my basket for later and then proceed to checkout, all I get is, buy it now, or go through and do the Barclays thing, but nothing about this 6 months thingy.
No,
really odd.
I don't know.
No,
maybe someone else has had a go at that.
yeah.
I am noticing actually. I went in to check the amount that 6 monthly thing, but because I've bought the Lenovo P11 Plus, it's not offering me the 6 months now. Because I've bought it.
It's that's that category thing, isn't it? You can only have one thing on tick in any one category: gardening, home, and technology.
Well, one of the other ones that we're coming up to, I clicked it to check out, and I can see that I've got the 5 monthly payments on it.
Well, is it a different category though?
Technology.
What is it?
It's a watch.
Yeah, so it might be that the watches are a different category to tablets. Okay. I'm not sure how they divide it all up, but there was this category thing going on.
I suppose it wouldn't make sense to be able to sell someone 5 of these tablets over 6 months or whatever.
No, exactly. Unless you were reselling.
Anyway, as hinted to, as alluded to in the recent conversation, the next one is the Samsung Galaxy Watch 4 smartwatch. I tweeted this out earlier, so if you want to have a look on Twitter there, you can find a link. You can buy it for a one-time only payment of what's been reduced from £289 down to £169. Now, that's not the full watch 4. It is the fitness one, with the health monitoring and fitness tracker and all that kind of stuff. But you can also get that on 5 monthly payments for £33.80. This is the 44mm version, not the smaller 40, but the full sort of, I don't like saying it, but the
manly one.
Yeah, and I think that's a bit of a bargain for anyone who wants a wee cheap, but solidly built fitness tracker. $169 isn't too much to pay there, and it works with Samsung Health, but it also works with all the other Android Wear flavoured ones, doesn't it?
Don't know.
I
I think it does, but usually there's some features missing that are exclusive to Samsung.
Yeah, no, it is Wear OS, powered by Samsung. Yeah,
Right.
but it's a good looking watch, that, and I think if you want one, now's the time to buy
It
it.
is. That's nice. Yeah. It still looks a bit fat, but there you go. Right. Sony Link Buds is next, which is only £10 off. But this is the first time I've seen a reduction. And I know one person who absolutely swears by these. They've got a set, and they said it's the best solution for them they've ever had, and they sound great. I've never tried one, and he's the only person that I know that's vouching for them. But yeah, £10 off at the moment, £139 instead of 149. These are the ones with the hole, the polo ones with a hole in the middle, and they work cleverly by allowing in ambient noise as well as giving you a really good sound system into your ears at the same time. So these are not noise cancelling, obviously, that would defeat the object, but they do let you hear what's going on in your environment. So yeah, I like those.
They look a bit cool as well. They fill your ears, so they're not going to fall out too easily.
No. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they look kind of swish.
Yeah.
What was £139 down from 149?
Yeah.
But the white ones are still 149.
Yeah,
So
these are the black ones only.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. The person that I know that's got them hasn't complained about how they fit in the ear. In fact, the opposite. So yeah, I really like them. If I needed a pair of earphones at the moment, I would certainly be looking to add this to my shortlist.
Yes. All right. Changing technologies. The Panasonic Lumix DC S5e K S5 full frame compact 4K wireless, mirrorless camera with the OLED screen on the back it's down in price from 179.99 down to £1,282, and then you've noticed that there is also a $200 off voucher as well, which I hadn't picked up on.
Pound.
Yes, pound. I don't know why I've got dollar in the head today. It's weird. But you can also buy it on for 5 monthly payments for £256. But then you've got that £200 voucher to take off as well, which will reduce that as well.
Yeah.
So this is the body only. It doesn't include a lens, but it's a nice SLR mirrorless camera.
Full frame.
Yeah. I like Panasonic Lumixes. I have a couple.
Yeah.
And I do. I think I favour the underdog. You know, everyone goes straight for Canon and Nikon. They never think about Panasonics. Mm-hmm. And I do like Panasonic. I think they do deliver quality goods. It's a name I always associate with quality. And I'm quite tempted by this. Just to have a nice... I don't have an SLR at the moment, and this might suffice.
Oh, here we go. Right, okay. So this one is saying exclusive for Amazon Prime members, pay over 12 months at no additional cost. If you hover over the thing that says learn more about installments by Barclays, just hover over that. Down the bottom of that window, it says you can spread the cost at 0% over 12 months, and then it gives you the 0% interest. But it's still done by Barclays. So presumably you've still got to go through an application process with Barclays. This is not Amazon doing this. It's Barclays, and they're farming it out. So that's what the secret is of the way you do that. It's just a bit of a faff compared to what I used to be offered and what you're being offered now. And a full frame camera like this for just over £1,000 is a serious bargain with that £200 off. Yeah,
I do like it. I just I don't want to have to then buy a lens on top of it as well. Clicking on it to get the 20 to 60 mil, there's no real big reduction on that. That's still £1,700. It's still cheaper than what the original body price was, but that's just quite a standard lens. Then you can get an extra lens as well, a 50mm lens as well, and that's £2,000. But you can buy that actually that's down from Oh, 70 quid off, mind you, but I think you get the £200 voucher on that. That's quite good too. And then that works out at £166 over 12 months.
Lusting over cameras.
Well, see, the thing, I went to a show yesterday, a game fair, and I took my camera along with me, and I only took it out of the bag once. I used my Pixel, and I think it was just so much easier to use the Pixel to take all the pictures.
It depends what you want to do. Obviously,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, if you're taking photography seriously still, and you've got a range of lenses, you can do loads more stuff than you can with a poxy little camera and a phone. But most of us these days are not doing that, I suppose.
True.
We are doing, what most of us are doing though, is listening to music, and that Sony SRS RA3000 reality audio thingy, I've never seen it quite as low prices. It's 189 quid. We saw it at 199 once, but now 189 is the lowest of the low, I do believe. And it's a cracking speaker, which reviews really, really well. And some people are dubious about the claims about reality audio. Fair enough, but I'd still like it. And that's, as I say, the cheapest I've seen it.
Yeah, just looking at some of the pictures in the description, it does look quite big and beefy. I always imagine this to be sort of, the size of your hand or a portable speaker size, but it's a bit bigger than that again. It does look nice.
It learns your room, apparently. This is what all the claims are about. If you put it down in your lounge, it learns where all the surfaces are. How it does it, I don't know, probably by bat's sonar. And it then delivers your sound where it knows that you want it delivered. It's all very clever stuff. The other one is much bigger, the 5000, and that came out at 499 quid. That's bigger and more beefy in every way, but this smaller version is perfectly adequate, I think. I'd love to have a go.
How much is the 5000 now?
Yeah, I don't know, because you hardly ever see it. You look it up, the RA5000 on Amazon, and
I'm
it's
just having a quick check through here.
Yeah.
See if I can find it.
RA5000, and they don't seem to sell it. I don't know if... Oh, there it is. Yeah. So there's no price on it. You can buy it... Oh, yeah, 430 quid. But it's from Amazon warehouse deal, I think. No, it's not. Oh, right, so you can buy it then. I take it back. 430 quid. It started off at 499, and the little one, the 3000, started off at 299.
Would you buy that if they were offering you 6 payments right now?
The smaller one or the bigger one?
Either.
They're offering me 12 month payments on the big one. I probably wouldn't because of my living situation. That's the trouble. I can't blast sound out of living in a static home anyway. It's just too unsociable. If I was in your living situation, I would love to have this and play with it and learn how it works. But at the moment, I feel guilty about having my Roku stream bar under the telly. I think it's too bassy sometimes for disturbing other people.
Yeah, it looks like I'm getting that rain that you were getting earlier. It's hammering off the windows right now.
Ah,
It's kind of nice. Don't have to go anywhere today, and I can just sit and look at the rain
very nice indeed.
rolling down the window.
Lovely.
Great.
Anyway, there you go.
All right. Well, that about brings us to the end, and almost up to 2 hours, so good show. All right, well, if you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. We also have a Tech Addicts Twitter called @techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter too, @GarethMiles, GarethMiles, and I have my GarethMiles.com that does have the same pitch of a Y in it.
Yes.
Well, and what about you, Ted? Where can they find you?
They can find me at tedsalmon.com. That's TEDSALMON. And
as opposed to the salmon that comes with 4 N's and a silent Q in there.
And also, you can find me in MeWe most of the time. Links to all the audio podcasts and also the MeWe groups are to be found at tedsalmon.com or at PodHub UK. Take your pick. And if you want to buy me a coffee, I would be very grateful. That's at paypal.me/TedSalmon. Cheers.
So we'll talk to you all next week and have a lovely week. Enjoy whatever weather happens to be thrown at you by the weather wizards that are out there. Take care now.
Cheerio.